Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Episode 33, I think.
I have listened to them. I have not kept track of what
Do you think
episode
by
that you were on.
this point I wouldn't know, or I would have looked? And the hours I spend looking at each episode, which really excited. We have an editor coming on to help us.
That's
so
exciting.
This will be his first project. Really exciting about that. But Ivy Garcia, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I was thinking about it earlier about trying to intro you, but I'm like, you've done so many things at this point.
I've done a lot of things.
Which when Lindsay was on, which shout out episode coming soon, it will be out by the time this comes out. But I was like, A, B, C, D, E, and it's funny. I feel like this era of nursing is very much like that. Even when I think about mine, I'm like, oh, I've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you've crossed over into the dark side once.
What is the dark side?
Administration.
Oh, yeah, that was not for me. But yes, I did try it at least. I went into it saying that I would try it, and I came out of it with some new friends.
Yeah. So you're a registered nurse.
Registered nurse.
Did you start in the ICU? I can't remember.
I started in the ER because my best friend started in the ER. So I did 3 days a week in the ER and 1 day a week ICU. That's the thing. I've done a lot of things, but I'm always doing at least 2 to 3 things at one time.
Sounds familiar. So ER nurse, ICU nurse, cath lab nurse for a while. Was it EP?
I did EP and moonlighted in cath lab, a total of 3 years.
Yeah. I think the most offensive thing I could say is they're the same thing.
I mean, it doesn't offend me, but if you tell the right person,
someone's
going to
hear that and be like,
yes.
Someone's red-faced listening to that.
An entire conversation about plumbers and electricians.
I know. It's not the same. It is, though. You're both working on a house.
Yes.
Yeah. So then you crossed over into management for a while for an outlining clinic.
Yes.
And then you decided, no thanks.
Yeah, no thanks. I love the staff. I love the people. I don't think anybody in healthcare is surprised that being in lower management in healthcare is very difficult. And I felt like sometimes it was very hard to advocate for my staff, advocate for my patients. So I did it for about a year and then did what I could to come back to ICU, which is my true love.
Yeah.
I just needed a break after.
Yeah, so now you're back in virtual ICU and having a great time.
I am.
And planning for the future as a nurse practitioner.
Probably. I mean, I'm accepted into school. I keep saying I'm doing it.
Weren't you accepted in school before?
This is the first time I applied. I was accepted in November. So I've been prepping it up until then because the program that I'm looking at starts in August. They start in the fall. And so
just trying to push it out.
They did it. I actually was gung-ho and it was I'm going to start in the spring. And there was another program. I was I'll take a couple classes in that program I got into and then transfer them over. But I was who knows what's going to transfer, especially the big 3 Ps, pharmacology, patho. I was I'm not going to risk it. So I'll just start in August, focus on our epic go live because that's been all consuming in both management and as a nurse.
I'm watching the tone and frequency of the imaging and messaging change. And it's you can see the panic setting in. And I think by the time this comes out, we'll have already gone through go live. So that'll be an interesting conversation. But, I'm not going to say any of this to disparage anybody or discourage anyone's efforts in this process. But when they were hey, you need to log into your Epic University and do your thing, I'm okay, cool. Whatever. Don't care. So I do it and I'm which is required to go to my next training thing. And I'm this module has nothing to do with me. None of this has anything to do with me. And they even asked in the subsequent class, they're so was anything in there? I'm no, literally nothing was applicable to my job. But there's so many odd confusions. When I took my class, they weren't entirely sure like what our you do your login location. So they were like, oh yeah, it's like pulmonology south or whatever, Springfield south or whatever. And it took us like 2 weeks to find out like, no, it's actually critical care south or whatever it is. And I'm like, you think we would have known that like right out of the gate? Because, and obviously there are 2 in our group that do outpatient pulmonology. The rest of us do not.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't, what's I'm not, they're like charting a bronch and inpatient and endo. And I'm like, that's not a thing. I mean, it's sometimes a thing, but it's not an ICU thing for sure.
No, not usually.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. I've adopted because I was kind of in management and we were navigating that because the outpatient clinic was urgent care, but everything was geared towards a clinic and it was not urgent care at all. So we literally went through every single tab and had to change everything in the template they gave. So I've just adopted the standpoint of willful ignorance. Yeah. And it's going to go perfect. It's going to be fine. There's not going to be a single issue. I'm super user day 1. I expect that to be a great day.
Ignorance is bliss.
It is. I feel good about it. I think Epic's going to be wonderful.
It's March 1st, right?
March 1st, yes.
Yeah. So I think, because I think that's like a next weekend. And I think I was supposed to work that night. And they were like, hey, I have to take you off. Some like the PRN person needs the day or whatever. And I was like, cool. Sounds good. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be there.
They're going to be on downtime for like possibly 4 to 6 hours. I can't even imagine as a nurse, but a provider. Yeah. No, thank you.
I got an email. It's, we laugh because as a provider, I don't want to say nobody cares about you, but like you just, because people are like, oh, you're outside. And I'm like, no, I live in a separate universe where people do not care about me, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. They don't care. So, I mean, there are people who care. Obviously, if I did something egregious or whatever, but just, for reference, when you like on board, it's like there's a whole cabal of people who are like, I'm going to get you credentialed and privileged because that's like priority 1. But when it comes to like things that you want or need, it's like it's never mentioned. And then you're like, hey, how do I do this thing? And they're like, hold on, you're going to have to go through 6 different people to not get an answer. And then it's going to be like actually be the first person you talk to. But HealthStream is one of those things where it's never talked about. Like no one, you have all, aside from the confidentiality agreements and like the disclosure, like the personal disclosures, which they harp on every year, they don't care about anything else. So when you lock in your HealthStream, there's usually like, not a ton, but like a fair amount of stuff that's just there. And I think early February or maybe January, I went and I just did them all because I was bored and didn't have anything to do and it was nothing important. And then I got like a random email last week and it was like, you have an overdue health stream and it is required, blah, 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 blah. And it's from like one of our upper physicians. And I know it's just like they get a list and they shoot an email out to people. But I'm like, what could be so important that you emailed me about it? It's been 2 years. I've never received an email. And so I log into HealthStream and it's like emergency epic downtime procedures. I was like, oh, there it is.
Yes.
There it is. You're now aware of what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's going to be great as long, because I'm going to come in the daytime and hopefully it will be
It'll
and
be
going.
Fixed 100%. I am actually thrilled. For many reasons. I know there's a lot of complexity and stuff, but once I'm getting Epic Chat and all that stuff, I think it's just going to be so much more streamlined for everybody.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm trying to think of where to start.
Yeah.
Start with our origins. We met in medical ICU.
We did.
Many moons ago.
Thinking about that. I don't even know how we became such great friends, but me and you and your wife somehow just one day I was like, these people are like my favorite people here. I don't even, because it was such a whirlwind at that time, because you guys were travelers from Portland coming to hang out, right? And
coming to party, dude.
Yes.
Gonna do some
the COVID party.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I don't even really remember, other than just one day I was like, yeah, these people are my friends.
Yeah. No, it's there. And it's, I think we were talking about this with Lindsay. Like, there's in my mind, there's very prominent people who stick out from back then. And like, you're one of them. Lindsay's one of them. I remember her, J-Lo, like, you know, there's so many people that you remember for different reasons. I think obviously there's like a trauma bond component of it where,
obviously,
because like, you know, we've talked about this before. We did, I don't want to say like exclusively COVID, but basically for like
literally
6 months to a year.
Almost every shift, yes.
Yeah, everyone over there. Because I remember, I don't think I came out of there for like 6 months. And then when I did, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like being out here without masks on. Like this,
I know.
I hate this.
These people are icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're breathing air. Every time somebody coughs, to this day, I'm like,
I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, you're gross.
yeah, you're disgusting. Why are you here? You're disgusting.
Yes, yeah. It was.
Man, that was the time. But
similar.
that was part of, because I know we had talked about, and like we're doing kind of like a soft COVID series, just because I think, I think it's therapeutic for people to talk about their experiences. Like I was surprised in this process by when people would be like, oh, I actually really enjoyed talking about that. Even more so the people who listened to it and were like, I felt very validated, you know, or other about this thing. So I think in a way there's a kind of a catharsis that comes with it. Because I know even when Lindsay was on, she was like kind of hesitant about that in the frame of how touchy of a subject it is in some ways, you know. But I think once it was over, she was like, oh, that, you know, actually was good to get it out. So I know we'll work our way there.
Yes, that sounds good.
So yeah, you and I met in the heat of battle.
Yes, because I was COVID charged a lot.
Yeah,
I was kind of like you. I think there was a time where I was in COVID every day, and they put me back in my one day, and my patient there also passed away. So I was like, well, you might as well put me back in COVID.
Right. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Get some complicated social situation or something, and you're
absolutely.
Like, gosh, dude, just put me back in the hole.
I know.
Baby stays in the hole.
As it was, yes. Like, I know that trauma. I can handle that trauma. Let's just deal with that.
Yeah. So we'll talk about your background a little bit, because you've been around the block. You've been a nurse for how long again?
I think 10 years.
Yeah, I think we were very similar.
Yes, yeah.
You started in emergency, left that because you're a better person than that. And
well, so I started, and then 10 months in, started also working ICU.
Yeah, you were like,
and then I realized I was a better person than that.
all love to our emergency department colleagues.
I do love them, but
yeah,
it's fun to joke.
It's really funny because sometimes, I don't know if I've really talked about this. Sometimes we do go down to the ER to assist. It's usually not because it's usually not because they've asked. Sometimes they do ask. Sometimes they call, like we've had, you know, attendings down there call and be like, hey, can you come down and put this line in, blah, 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 which depending on which one of our attendings you talk to is going to, depending on the type of response you're going to get. But we do have several of our attendings that are very willing. And in fact, I would almost say prefer it because they're like, I would, this patient's so sick, I'd like to get my hands on them sooner than later. So, which is why I like, you know, a lot of the stuff that Critical Care Now does, because a lot of it's emergency ICU crossover.
Yes.
Because I think that's becoming more prevalent. But it's always really funny when one of our attendings, I will not say their name, you probably will know them, but like someone who gets very animated and energetic and in high stress situations.
I have a feeling I know who you're talking about.
And they go down there and like, I remember, I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast. It's pretty short, but I was, one of the nights I was working, I was with a trainee and we were walking around just rounding, and all of a sudden this SOCM comes up and he goes, are you like trying to figure out who I was? And I was like, I'm on. She goes, or he goes, there's a doctor in the emergency department who's looking for you. And I was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Like, and he's like, they asked me to come find you. And I said, I was literally like, are you messing with me? Like, are you messing with me right now? Like, did they put you up to this? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, what's wrong? And he goes, he's like, I don't know. They're doing like procedures and there's blood everywhere. And they told me to come find you. And I was like, oh. So I'm like, I like hightail it down there, and I walk into, like the big resuscitation bay, and there's blood everywhere. There's blood on the ground. There's blood on the walls. Like,
oh my gosh.
this attending is like trying to get us lying in this person. And then there's another SOCM at the head of the bed with the Yankar in the mouth of this intubated individual. And it's just a stream of bright red blood coming out. And I was like, what can I do to assist you here? And like, the best part is like the ER staff are all like lining the walls, and they're just like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Who is this person who's going nuts down here?
That sounds great.
No, it's a good time, but we appreciate our emergency staff. So you wised up, left. It can't stop. Medical ICU, went through all the trenches of COVID, and remind me, what was the decision to leave the ICU like for you?
Yeah. So obviously we went through COVID. That was really difficult. And then I actually had I call him a family member, but it's my brother-in-law's dad came in. He had limb-girdle muscular dystrophy and then got COVID. So he was actually in MICU, and, we're already tired and have been through a lot of that. But COVID was actually kind of calming down. But he ended up coming in, had COVID, had aspirated, was put in MICU eventually, because I was supposed to get him that day. Mark said, you're getting rapid from the floor, told me his name, burst out crying in the break room and was like, I can't take him because I'm too close. Like, I really care about him. We've done Disney trips with my brother-in-law's parents, and like, they're basically just surrogate parents. So he came in, and it was kind of his hospitalization process. Like, a lot of it was internal, but like when he came in with COVID, I was kind of like, okay, well, he's going to pass away. And I was just very negative. But then he would do that normal thing where he kind of got a little bit better. And I would be really mean to myself because I was like, you're so negative. Like, I gaslit the heck out of myself about how I was handling him being sick. And then he would get a little better. They decided to put a trach in because he just kept aspirating. And then he came in like full ARDS and ended up passing away in room 1. I was on shift that day.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Mark, the charge nurse, was very nice and let me take the rest of the day off and be there with my family. And I helped watch his son's kids and stuff. But seeing him go through that process, seeing how I kind of treated myself in that process of, I do have medical knowledge. I definitely have some imposter syndrome where I think sometimes I don't know what I know, but I did know like the outcome and what was happening. But then when he would improve or different things, I was just kind of harsh on myself and was like, you're too negative. You have been in this too long. And so that was honestly the day that he got really sick and came back was the day that I applied for other positions.
Yeah.
And felt like I needed to take a break. So I went to electrophysiology.
Yeah. Which I think we've mentioned this before, I think, on the last podcast, but it's better to leave the party too early than too late.
Yes.
And we've seen that play out with many of our colleagues where we're like, brother.
Yeah.
It's like, seek the high ground.
Yes.
Because you're not doing well right now, know.
Yeah.
Because, COVID did some stuff, man. Like, it did some stuff, I think, to a lot of us psychologically. It broke a lot of people, I think. And when I say break, I don't always mean that as a permanent change. Because I know, like, one of the stories that I told on Lindsay's podcast was one of my breaking moments. But I don't look back at that and think like, oh, that's a permanent, that's a permanent disability that you have. And it was just, I think of the saying that is an abnormal response to an abnormal situation is a normal response, And I think the better your self-awareness is, or having an external reliable totem, if you will, that tells you what's true and what isn't, because otherwise I think you can absolutely do irreparable harm. I remember one of the days you were charging, and I was I was being a jerk. Like, I was really upset at you and like all this stuff, like to the point where I had to message you afterwards. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, cause I was at home and I was like, cause once I got into a not that environment, I was like, that was wrong. Like, that I should not have acted that way. But so many of us had those times. And I think those were also some of our bonding moments where we're like, we can't do this without each other.
Yeah.
You know?
What's so funny is I don't even remember that day. I don't ever remember you being mean. I remember the day that I was sick and you put a paper on my computer that said unclean.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's the thing. We all had those days. And that was something as charge when I came in. I usually tried to first check on everybody. How are you doing? You know, what can I do to help you with meds this morning? Because we were tripling sick patients and things like that some days. So I tried a lot to support the staff during that time, sometimes over like the admin side of charging, because it was really difficult. And we all had those moments that got us a lot deeper.
Yeah, it was. And I think, and that's why I'm so grateful for the network of people that we had, you know, the friendships that we made, because I think because of those, we were able to pull out of those tailspins, you know, because man, some of those days were bad.
Yeah.
Like real bad. I had asked Lindsay this, but I guess I'll ask you this too. Do you have like a day one memory? Like we said, do you remember where you were when the bombs fell?
So I was living in St. Louis at the time that COVID actually started, with a girl who worked for the CDC, and she had kind of said like China has this thing that they're watching. And we went to Disney and I came back super sick, like had a cough forever. And I kept joking with my best friend, like, oh, it's my COVID. And like, we made a joke out of it, which I repented for later because I definitely underestimated it.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it kind of was a joke. And then I was actually in cath lab for about a year and came back to ICU to help out during COVID because I felt like I wanted to serve my community. And, you know, they were really short on nurses, and there was just a lot of factors that I was like, I'm going to, you know, serve my community. Whether that was a good idea or not is to be decided still, but came back, and it was the first day I remember walking into the tower and seeing, like, they hadn't officially opened it yet, but they kind of showed us, this is the plan. And there's just these lines of beds and the curtains are over on the left side. And I was just like, oh crap, like this is about to get really real. And then I took care of a CRT patient in CCU. And I remember that was kind of where I was like, this can be pretty devastating, but
yeah, it's so hard to like try and describe what the tower was like, but cause I always say, you know, cause you know, people are always like, is work at a hospital like Grey's Anatomy? You know, and you're like, it can be, but generally no. Like by and large, no. I have absolutely worked at hospitals where it's very much like that, but those environments are so unhealthy, it's unreal. But with this, I'm like, yeah, imagine like a movie, like it's like, you know, Pathogen or whatever, you know, movie, and you're in a hollowed out Costco, like that is now a medical ward with the sickest humans you've ever seen.
Yep, that's a very good description.
Yeah, and yeah, there's just so much that went into it, but
yeah. Well, and it was hard because I was like, it's hard for us and we're walking into it every day, but imagine these patients. Like I remember one day I went in and this patient was on BiPAP and they had to like code the patient next to him, put in chest tubes, all that. And he heard it. And so I came in that morning and he was really quiet and I said, you know, what's going on? And he's just like, that guy next to me, you know, essentially died last night. Right. And like the trauma that he was feeling in every single one of those patients was devastating as a nurse, you know?
Yeah. I think ICU survivorship is an under talked about area, you know, even external to COVID, because at least these days, if your neighbor dies, you don't have to watch it. And during COVID, there was no privacy. Like I know at one point we got the mobile dividers that we put the scenes, like the beach scenes and stuff on, so you felt like you had something to look at, which retrospectively feels so dystopian. But
it does, doesn't it?
You know, which reminds me about a super funny story to tell later. But like, you think about those days when we were coding 3 people at a time and you're watching it and while you're getting sicker and sicker. And then one of the things that I think about a lot, you know, even now is, how do I describe it? I try to not let this sounds bad. I try to not let my face convey the truth of the situation sometimes, at least what my perspective of the truth is. And what I mean when I say that is, your face and your body language can tell a story that's far beyond what your words are saying. And, I think about, we had a pretty tragic death recently. That was objectively awful, one of those things. And it was one of those situations that it's probably the part of my job I hate the most is going to tell them, like when, things have gone bad. And we were in a procedural area in the middle of the night. And, in like where IR is, there's this really long hallways. And like you take the first really long hallway and then you turn to go to the visitors and it's another really long hallway, but they can see you coming. That's the worst. Like,
that sounds miserable.
It's those 50 yards is like the longest walk of my life. And my face and my body is telling them exactly what's happened. So they're breaking down as I'm walking towards them because they know. And I hate it. It's one of the worst feelings ever, because like during COVID, you want to be optimistic for everybody. But they could sometimes see it on your face, see it on your eyes, what's coming.
Yes. Yeah. Because, I remember those conversations. Yeah. Families being like, realistically, how do you think this is going to go? I had a couple that asked that, and it was hard to answer those questions sometimes. Because you do try to be optimistic, and I'm like, well, if they do this and this and this, maybe. Yeah. Most likely no, but.
Well, that was the thing, right? Like you knew, because, and I retrospectively, I just hate so many of the commentaries that we had, back then. And I don't mean we, I mean us, I mean general commentaries of like, they're killing them with the ventilators and blah, blah. And it's like, what else do you want me to do?
Exactly. Like the solution is to just let them
suffocate
to death.
Every single one of those providers and nurses were doing what they thought was right. Because that's what we would do for anything else. And there's still at this point, because people I know still like to pair at that point. I'm like, there's still no data. Like, do lungs pop? Yes. Like nasty, ate up, fibrotic lungs do pop. There's nothing you can do about that. It's that or die. So, you
try or you don't try. But that's the thing that was kind of disheartening though, right? Because as providers, we were sacrificing so much to be there. We were working overtime, missing family events. I probably tested for COVID 1,000 times because we were seeing my husband had a 100-year-old grandma. So I tested every time before we saw her because I was not going to be the person that got her sick. And so we were sacrificing all this stuff for people to accuse us of making their family members worse. Murder. I remember twice when I was charged that we had pastors, thankfully from another state, but threatened to unalive our staff if their family member passed
They've
away.
Asked for exorcisms.
Yes.
Remember that? That was a treat.
Yeah. And it's hard because at the time it felt a lot like us versus them, but I'm trying now to think they were scared too. And there's so much information being fed from so many things, but sometimes you just want to shake them and tell them to listen to those who are in it or have some medical background.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everybody's got a perspective. And like, we referenced on the podcast with Lindsay, like, were there people who weren't subjected to the same amount of stuff that we were? Yeah. But that's just the nature of the beast. It's not going to, like when I was in Oregon, we had it, I worked in trauma ICU at the time. We had a medical ICU. They had some COVID patients on like ECMO and stuff, but it wasn't anything near to the degree that we dealt with here, I still think about being in Arizona and how, there's no visitors at all. But especially at night, if you looked out the windows, there was families just lined up at the front door. And then I remember when I was leaving, they finally would let people come in. And it was like some very strange time, like that was around shift change. But when we'd leave, it was like a concert. Like they were lining up outside to come in, when they could. But, I know at Aaron's hospital, there were people that would be in the windows because it was like ground level. And they would be at the windows they had some people would be holding up signs, And so thankful for the people who tried to do it in such a positive way where they're also trying to encourage us, you know. I still have some pictures on my Instagram of like different like they'd have kids write us letters and stuff, which is very nice. But at the same token, like it's weird, right? Because it also hurts. Like it hurts a lot. So is there anything prominent that sticks out to you about that time?
I mean, the biggest thing was just like we were ICU nurses taking care of these sick patients. Like they were much sicker than I've dealt with in my previous career, but we were ICU nurses. We could do that. We could work short. That was normal. But it was just all those other complexities that were part of it, like how the community was towards us, whether that was kind or unkind. And you had like all of these other things, these factors that were contributing that made it just so much harder to deal with as a healthcare provider at the time.
You know, I've never really thought about it that way, but I think you're 100% correct. Like it really wasn't the disease. It was everything else.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there is the component of not knowing and even to this day, not really having any true treatment, right? Like monoclonal antibodies from Desivir. I know that's a bad word because it kills people. No, it doesn't. Shut up. It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's so many of those things where it's like, well, there's this study that shows that it causes renal failure. I'm like, it might, but I don't have another option.
Exactly.
Like because no one's giving you this with the intention of poisoning you. They want to help you. It's like that, or what was it, tocilizumab, or you know, all these random super exotic drugs. Then we got monoclonal antibodies. Had those for 5 seconds, and those seem to really help for not like pre getting to the hospital, but like. Even into the end, like if you made it to ICU level, you probably weren't going to do well, like period. And you just had to listen to this stupid crap, get repeated over and over again. Yeah, you're right. I'm in on it. I'm making zero money. The pharmaceutical industry couldn't care less that I exist, but yeah, I'm in on it.
And that's so funny because I was like, if I really wanted to hurt people, I didn't need to pay for a nursing degree to do that. I could hurt people. Probably, I'm a true crime girly. I could probably do a pretty good job without having gone into school debt. So
for real.
But there was, and it wasn't just necessarily the community, but some patients. Like I remember telling one guy, like, hey, you really need to prone. You need to do this. Like we're going to work really hard together to get you better. And he's like, well, tell Fauci to prone. And I was like,
stop.
He's not laying in this bed right now. He's not my patient. Like I understand you have very strong beliefs. Right. That's fine. Whatever you want to think. But like, I'm trying to help you and tell you what you need to do better. Yeah. And even then it's probably not going to work, but I'm still going to try as hard as I can. So work with me to try that hard, Yeah,
that was, one of the weirdest aspects I think about COVID is the politicalization of it. And I'm like, this is a really crazy thing to be political about right now.
Isn't it?
Still is.
Yeah, it still is. Like, and that was something I think I posted one day because this was a particularly horrible shift. I think I was resource nurse, I think, that day in the tower. But I ended up helping with postmortem care on 6 different people in my 12-hour shift. And so I posted something on Facebook, but I was like, guys, like, I understand you have strong beliefs, but like, if you pass away from this, your beliefs, whatever they are, they don't care, but your families are crying over your bodies. And that is what should be important in this moment is the people that we're in relationship with that are going to have to also walk this with us is insane to me that they held so tightly onto something when they had
to their
children
death.
And grandchildren. Yes. I'm like, because everything I did in that time was out of consideration for the people I cared about,
Yeah. I mean, I think about that a lot. Like, and I always try to steer away from suffering comparisons, right?
Yes.
But I think there are some things that are so shocking. I think people need to understand, right? It's like, we watched whole families die. And not only that, we watched them watch each other die.
Yeah.
Which is...
I remember one family in particular, like we had several of them in the tower.
And you look at these situations and it's like, because I think people reference a lot is like birthday parties or church gatherings or stuff. And like, I always felt so split because on one hand, I'm like, you have a faith, you have a God. I want you to be able to practice that 100%.
Yes.
But I want you to understand what the risk is. And how many times do we see where they were like, all right, well, we're going to have our own church service, which great. Like, I want you to be able to do that. But somebody shows up with the sniffles and they're like, no, it's fine. This is just a flu. And I'm like, it might be for you, but people's entire family, I mean, father, mother, daughter, brother, sister, dead in the same unit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. My church was one of those that mishandled it severely, which was crazy because I found a church at the time because I was, trying to find every outlet I could or inlet, I guess, to stay sane. So therapy, church, my husband was a huge help, but my church was kind of the same way. And I remember talking to our chaplain staff who were wonderful, but we shared a church and they were having these massive services and we felt so betrayed by them. So that's another factor that made it more complex is you have a faith background and they also aren't taking it seriously and things like that. And then there was another church, the one that I found, that they just did it online and it was great. They found a way to still make it work and encourage people, but they worked around what was going on in the community and trying to protect their neighbors. But I don't know.
Man, it's brutal. Like, because a lot of times there's no right answer. I mean, you'd reference like self-testing, right? Like I probably tested once a week, like just because I needed to know where I was. I remember one of the days I did it, and this is probably like 6 months in. I was just like, I don't remember what we were gonna do. Like we were gonna go somewhere in the coming weeks, but I was like, yeah, I want to make sure because I'm gonna see my mom or something like that. And I got a bad batch of tests, and it was positive. And I had no symptoms really. Like I had some, I think, coincidental GI stuff, and I lost it. And I was like, because I don't remember if we had gotten married yet or we were near it, but I was like crying in my kitchen, and I was like, I'm sorry, this is it. Like this is over, And I remember going to urgent care, and I was like, hey, is there something can you give me? And they're like, no. Just go home. I was like, okay. So that's it, Yeah. And it was true. And, I did not end up catching COVID until much later, like once the strains had heavily weakened, Yes. But that feeling is wild.
Yeah. I got it. We had several in MICU that got it, had to shut down beds, like several of us. But 2 days later, Aaron, my husband, had a fever of 101.3, and I sat on my bed and I bawled the entire night because I was like, I gave it to my husband, like everything I'd worked towards protecting my family, and I gave it to him.
Yeah, and then you feel like you killed him.
Like if something happened.
Yeah, because you think about every other situation that you've dealt with like that. I'd think about like the mental state sometimes that you would have had to gone to survive sometimes in those areas. Like getting tested hurts like a lot. Like you remember those the drive-throughs that we go to, and one of them like made me bleed. Like it hurt, and we would do it over and over and over again. And then by contrast, those people were like, it don't matter. I don't care. And then they just show up, and then boom, half your unit's sick all of a sudden. Yeah. You're shutting down beds. People, I hate to frame it this way, but it's the truth. People died because we didn't have caregivers because of a person's selfishness. Like
it's hard to say, but it's true.
That's a hard pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah, and you don't ever want to blame somebody, but that happened. Like they were selfish, and I remember there was a guy that was in the tower on the ICU side, and his family, his elderly parents, mom and dad, were on the med-surg side, and both of them ended up passing away. And, so it's just like he knew he was sick. He went and hung out with them. Like it's hard to not look at that man and be like, how could you be so selfish as to kill your elderly parents with this thing just because you don't want to believe in it, or because, again, you're holding on to these particular beliefs?
Yeah. Well, that's why I like to think about things in terms of like, and I would say this to even frame it as like a nurse practitioner, where if I'm looking at a situation, I will often think, here's what I think is going on. if I'm wrong and it's this and it leans any other direction, can I still do the safest thing for this person? And because we think about every situation like that, because every call that I get during the day or in the middle of the night, I might be and often am we all are predisposed to being like, it's not a big deal. Like, whatever, it's not a big deal. But then there's the other voice in the back of your head, because most of the time it's not a big deal. It's not going to be an issue. But then you think in your head, it's always like the patient who falls, right? And you're like, do you scan them or you don't scan them?
Yeah.
And you look at them and you go, normal neuro exam, no head strike, no thinners, probably fine. But once in a blue moon, it's not fine, and it's a slow burn event. And people get really torn up over it because they feel like they're at fault or whatever. And it's like, dude, we're all working with the best of intentions. Yeah. And it's not always going to turn out great. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just imagine what the situation would have been like if people just assumed that instead. But I think it would have been a lot easier for healthcare providers if people assumed that we were doing the best with what we had, which was nothing. We were throwing whatever we could at them. But
and even from like a preparatory standpoint, we had a lot more than a lot of people did. And to think about Aaron wearing trash bags for PPE, or like when we were in Arizona, at the end of every shift, we'd have to take our N95 off and send it to the pharmacy. And they would like staple them together. Like, when your rubber band would come off, they would staple it together and then they would sanitize it. And then next morning I had to get my brown paper bag with my N95 in it. And hopefully it makes it through the day. Hopefully it doesn't bust off of my face while I'm doing something,
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that blew my mind was when I was living in Oregon. Like I said, I did trauma ICU. COVID was never an issue for us. Like, we did have one mass exposure, but it was just because we had a patient testing positive. They were in a positive pressure room, like the trauma resuscitation rooms. That was really it. But while I was there, all the protests / riots, there were both, were going on. And our house would frequently be surrounded by like shoulder to shoulder people. Not that they were there for us, but just they were demonstrating and they would fill the streets. And I remember one day I was like, I couldn't get out of my house. Like, I could not. So I called work and I'm like, hey, what am I doing? There's people everywhere. And they were like, well, wander out into a street until you can find a place to get an Uber and come in. And I'm like, in the middle of a pandemic, you want me to go into a protest where none of them are taking any kind of precautions. And then you want me to wade through that and then come in here with patients on death's door and breathe all over them. That's what you want me to do. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
That is insane.
Cool. Actually, I'm going to call out. I'll see you tomorrow.
I think I'm sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, that's insane. Yeah, we did. I feel like, and that was something I think we were very fortunate for, is we did have providers that were very much willing to advocate for us, and having the proper PPE and making sure that we had, even financial incentives for the towers. I feel like we could go to a particular head of critical care, and he was very, very receptive to doing what he could to take care of the staff at our hospital.
Yeah. How much is your life worth? The question we ask a lot, right?
I know. Yeah.
Because it's like you had mentioned earlier, like you spend your whole life in a way that is commensurate with the mission, right? And that's trying to protect other people. So even when you weren't at work, you were still working in a different way, making sure that you were masking appropriately, minimizing out time, reducing risk, checking yourself all the time. And I mean, like I've mentioned on here before, like Aaron and I came here. There's no family here. All the family ever, you and the people we made along the way. So when a holiday would roll around, we'd be like, all right, well, let's take some food to work. Like, what are we going to do? Sit at home and eat it? Like, we know they're safe. We're safe. We'll just go there. Like, you know, spread joy wherever you can. Mm-hmm. But that was our whole life for years.
Yeah.
You know, how hard was it for you to readjust to regular life when it was over?
I think it was very interesting. Like, I still have photos. I actually have them up and stuff of like groups of us, like with you and Aaron and stuff, celebrating when the tower closed. Mm-hmm. And we would have these really good highs whenever the tower would close. But there was always that part of myself that was still negative. Like, well, when is it going to open again though? I can't be too hopeful. And I think that that's something that I carried with myself for a while after, is just this pretty unhealthy fear of losing the people close to me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, feeling like it was just going to come back and I couldn't get too happy or excited because we were going to be back in it. Like, realistically, I knew that it was going to run its course eventually, but you just get so stuck in that pattern. And so, like, I remember there was a couple months after it ended, but I had a dream one night that Aaron, my husband, told me that he was going to go lay down and die. And he laid down and died in my dream. And I woke up devastated, like bawling, like in a way he has never seen me cry like that. Even still, he's like, I thought your dad died, like, because you were so upset. And it was just this dream. So I was very fortunate during COVID. I found a therapist who kept spots open for healthcare workers, and continued to see her. And I had, you know, a third party one that I could dump all this stuff onto. So I didn't dump it onto my family and friends, but it took a while after to start to feel like, you know, that we could get back into normal life and spend time with people outside of our home and different things. Like, it took me a while and a lot of therapy to get there, because I was still pretty fearful of being around people and, you know, losing people that I cared about. Every time my dad got sick, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it was kind of had to get out of that mentality of just focusing and hyper focusing on losing people. Yeah.
I feel like, it's interesting because I feel like that sentiment definitely still exists and it just comes in waves. Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's horribly exacerbated by having children now, children that I love more than anything on this world. And you think about everything that can go wrong, like every little, I remember, I think the first time, what was it? It was recently. Well, there's been several, but you know, the first time I think we all got sick because of an exposure somewhere, and being like just furious, like furious. But I'm also like, it's going to happen. Like, that's life. You're going to, you know, it's more abnormal if your kids aren't getting sick from being exposed to the world. Right. Mm-hmm. So but you look at them and like, kids are very resilient, but they're also so tiny and like, I don't say weak, but kind of weak, you know? So when they get knocked down, or, you know, these kids that have boundless energy suddenly do not, and they're like laid up and they just want to lay with you, and you're like, it does stirs something inside of you where you're like, I would do anything to make this right now, even though I know it's just normal to get sick and this is what happens. But no, I still, you know, you're constantly, I think, at odds with the world, you know, for any number of reasons. Yeah. But whether it's super
unfortunate,
elite pedophiles, I don't know.
Don't even get me started. So I also in the ER did SANE nursing.
And, that's right. I forgot about that.
And I had a ridiculous number of pediatric SANE.
That would break me.
Yeah.
Break me.
That's why I stopped doing SANE. Actually, I stopped it as soon as COVID started, because I was like, I can't do both. Like, as soon as I started working COVID, I was like, I can't handle both of these. Like, I just can't.
I often have, I've made jokes, and we've told our origin stories on here before, but I make jokes a lot of times about how everything that's happened in my life is something I said I would never do, which is true, you know? So I try not to think those thoughts now, because there's sometimes I'm like, well, you could be like a pediatric nurse practitioner. And I'm like, no. Cause I love, like even when in nursing school, when I did my peds rotation, I loved it. Like, I love, you know, just happy kids. Like, it's so fun. But I like kids with cancer, man. Like, I remember being in the NICU with Sophia, and I was like, it gave me a lot of perspective, because I was like, my kid's gonna be fine. Like, it's just, she needs time. Like, but you see kids that are legitimately might not make it. And I'm like, I don't know how anyone does this professionally. I don't know even if as a parent, like how I would sit in this, and I thank God extensively for that time, because was very much blessed with a sense of peace about the situation, even though, yes, I was like, my kid, could be really sick. She ended up being totally fine. But I was given, I would say, a supernatural sense of peace about it. Mm-hmm. But seeing other people in that same situation, and you can't do anything to help them. Even my own wife, I remember she, was preeclamptic, had all those issues, gives birth. Sophia has to go to NICU essentially right away. Like within like 10 minutes, they're like, her blood sugar's 20 or whatever. And then NICU rushes in, and they were fantastic. Like when people were like, nurses are heroes. And I'm like, whatever. And then I go through that. I'm like, nurses are heroes, like for sure. Like they just swept in, so calm, so nice, so reassuring. Like the terror of having to deal with my wife's terror, right? Because I remember she was like, as soon as they came, she's like, "You're going with her." I'm like, "Of course I am, dude. You stay there. Like, don't worry about it." Because she was bedbound for 24 hours, and I don't even know if she could walk the next day, because she had like the magnesium infusions and all this stuff, and she was still terribly symptomatic. But then like 5 days later, she ended up, getting hadn't been to go to the ER because her blood pressure's up, all these visual things, because just because you give birth doesn't mean preeclampsia is over. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like the OB, one of the OBs ended up coming in to see her and was like, "I'm going to put you on blood pressure medicine, but I'm going to tell you need to go home. Like you have to go home and take care of yourself." And even I'd gone to the NICU to drop off breast milk, and the charge nurse there, who, again, all very nice, she was like, "Mom needs to go home." And I was like, "I know, I'm trying. Like I truly am trying." You can't separate a mom from her kid unless she's willing, unless she's willing. So anyway, I showered them in donuts and cookies. So
that was nice of you. Yeah. They are a special breed of nurses, because
I don't know how they do it.
You have great days, but your bad days are really
god awful.
Really, really bad. Yeah.
God awful.
That was the hardest part of the ER, because I had several infant and child mortalities. And that's the primary reason why I was like, ER is not for me.
Yeah.
I love children. I don't want to see them in this situation.
I went through this brief love affair with the idea of getting my ENP, my subspecialty in emergency. Mm-hmm. And I was like, because I'm an ACNP, generally those programs want F&Ps because you see people across the lifespan. I was figuring out how to backdoor that situation, which I found a way. But for some reason, it never crossed my mind that I might have to see a child. And I was like, oh, no. That completely discounts that entire situation. It's like, even I would really like to break off into rural medicine, which I actually have a guest coming up who does rural medicine in Southeast Kansas in a town of 1,000. So I'm excited. But then I was thinking, like, imagine if you were an NP or a physician or whatever, podunk nowhere, and then a kid washes up in your ER, and you're like, the terror that I would feel is intense. Not that I don't feel anxiety dealing with sick adults, but this might be bad. But, objectively, you see certain people and you're like, I want you to recover and get better, but I understand how you got this way.
Yeah.
And it was completely your doing. There are freak accidents, absolutely. But I would say, I don't know how you would feel about this, but the vast majority of ICU patients are there as a product of the life that they've lived.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And I'm not saying that as a blame statement. It's just easier to wrap your head around, in my opinion, to go like, well, you ate really bad for a long time. You've had multivessel coronary artery disease. You've not taken that seriously, whatever. And then it does lead you down a conversation of like social determinants of health and stuff like that, which are things that come up in school that so many people just poo, but it's like, no, it's really important. Like it truly is important. Yeah. Healthcare access, healthcare literacy, all those things play a role into it. So there is that component of it where it's like, man, I hope that you really understood. Like, because honestly, if you chose this knowing those things and this is the outcome and you're okay with that, then I'm also going to be okay with that because I don't want to carry that around with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But traumas, pediatrics, and then freak accidents, you know, just, you know, random heart attack, healthy person working out of the gym, you know, arrests in front of you. Like, I think those are the things that kind of grab you by the roots and shake the tree a little bit. Yeah,
it's a lot harder because, I mean, the kids that I took care of, very, very rarely was it their fault that something happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that, again, not to place blame, but our choices do have consequences, and they're...
Yeah, so what's your favorite video game?
Okay, yeah. Oops.
Harry Potter, dude?
Probably. Hogwarts Legacy was wonderful. I haven't played it in a little while, though.
This is the beauty, I think, of healthcare conversations is when you start to get too deep, you're like, say something funny.
Yes. Let's talk about video games.
Distraction. Do you want to order food?
Yeah. What do we get for lunch? How many times have I heard you say that?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, probably Hogwarts Legacy. I love that game. But you know a game that's really good and I actually can turn my brain off? It's really silly. No. House Flipper.
House Flipper?
You get to clean up houses.
Oh, I bet that's fun.
It's the one game where I can actually like chill out because I told you I'm like about to rage quit Stardew Valley. So
yeah. The allure of games like that as I get older, and I still play Minecraft. Like it's like a digital Zen garden for me. Like I will just dig holes in the ground. Like who cares? And what's that other game I have? It's like mowing simulator or something. Yeah. And you're just freaking mowing grass, dude. And I'll play that game for an hour. Just it's so stupid. Goat simulator. There's like so many that I'm just like, the AAA titles suck most of the time, I think. So those are the ones that get me that are like good indie games. Like Ori and the Blind Forest or what's the little one? The little skeleton knight.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, the new one just came out. Soap Song. Well, it's probably not new at this point, but so you're a Harry Potter girly.
I am always.
Do you remember? Oh, I know that you sent it to me, and I'm gonna put a picture of it up in the podcast. Do you remember the cake, the Harry Potter cake with the cat,
with the broom?
The broom. I won't say what it looks like. I will put a picture up.
Yeah, let everybody decide what they think.
What this broom looks like.
Because we immediately both of us saw it and we're like,
brother.
Oh, okay. Allison was so sweet to get it too.
But
it was the funniest
one of
thing.
the funniest things, I think.
It's a core memory. Mm-hmm.
That's probably a better thing to talk about that we didn't really talk a lot about with Lindsay. But what are your good memories from COVID? I have a ton.
Yeah,
I have a ton. Yeah. It's a very controversial thing to say. I had a blast in many ways.
It's hard to say, but yeah, like it was such a devastating time, but we got to connect with our coworkers. Like, you know, hospitals always say like, oh, we're a family, but it kind of feels like they more do it to manipulate you to pick up overtime and things like that sometimes. Yeah. But we actually got to become a family. And like you said, we hung out with each other because we knew that person was being safe. And like we brought each other meals and desserts and different foods and things like that. Like you really did get to connect on a deeper level with your staff, which was awesome. Like some of my favorite memories were, you know, talking to your wife about whatever random thing that we're each focusing and hyperfixating on that week. And, you know, her going on about how you don't need to buy any more, you know, guns and knives at the time. Or like, you know, when you put that sign on my thing, and I think I had on my back, like, it's just a cold run on the back of my outfit that day. And then you changed it to it's just a cold sore. Like, it was hilarious. In hindsight, patients probably had questions, but those were the good things. My husband let me get my COVID kitty, Albus. I had been asking for a second cat for a very long time, and I was finally sad enough that he agreed. So
I was finally sad enough that he agreed.
Yeah, that was that rough week. So he was like, okay, pick a cat you want. So there's that. I mean, obviously I found my husband kind of before COVID, but we got married during COVID in a small, just family and close friends ceremony, which was wonderful for us. We bought a house. Like because of the little bit of incentive that we got for being in the tower, I could actually like afford some stuff for my new house. And like, so there was a lot of positives, but mostly it was just the people. We started playing D&D.
Oh yeah. That was my first and only D&D sesh.
Yes. Yeah. So
Gordy for the win.
Gordy the Goat Lord.
Didn't I end up like killing the dragon or something at the end?
You did. Yes. You killed
on
the
like my
young
last
white
roll
dragon.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Yes. Yeah. You killed him and then you saved all the goats. But the farmer that you gave all that money to save the goats was just going to go buy more goats. So, but yeah, we started playing D&D because we had other friends that were also going to be cautious. And that was a great thing for us because it is hard as adults to find people that you can just hang out with and connect with and, play games together and stuff. So it kind of helped us open up our home a little bit. So there was a lot of good things that came out of COVID, I feel like too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point is like you're hanging out with the people that you know are safe, who are doing the same things that you're doing. Because I remember we used to have brunch, like every weekend for a long time. And like, I remember sitting in like when Progress was still here, that little like fenced off room in the back and shutting the doors. And it was just us. I was like, that was kind of our little getaway, something to look forward to at the end of the week.
Exactly. Yep. I remember that.
I think too, maybe just a general commentary on adulthood, but I feel like the pervading spirit is one of competition, not of community a lot of times. And I think one thing I appreciate more probably than anything as I grow older in the friendships that I maintain and cultivate are you want people in your life who want the best for you. Like, and who really mean that, like, not just like, oh yeah, no, I love Ivy, but if she just died, it'd be fine. No, just, people who don't actually aren't looking out for you as opposed to having people who, and that's, doubly true, I think, now that I have kids, because there are definitely, I don't think there's really anybody in our group that has been like dissuaded by like other people having children or whatever. And I think in many ways, a lot of people are even more supportive now that are like, even people like, you guys don't have kids. You've opted for that and that's okay. But you're still very supportive of the people around you who do.
Oh, and I love them.
Yeah, because you're not like, oh no, I don't want them. Ew, I don't want them around. Like you still love on my kids like, everybody else in our circle does. And that's, I think, one of the true and important thing, of building those relationships is that living in earnest, I guess you would say. But oh man.
Yeah.
So you are aiming towards becoming a nurse practitioner.
I am.
Which I've avidly warned you against. I'm just kidding. I've been very supportive.
I mean, if you did, I would probably still, I don't know. I think I would really like it.
No, you will.
I do think I would really like it. Yeah. Obviously, I think going for the right reasons. Obviously, if I'm going for money or whatever.
If you're going for money, don't go into it.
It's not a great choice, but I think I would love it. I think there was a lot of times in my career where I knew I would love it. I just, throughout COVID, I wasn't going to go back to school. And just different things that came up. So it finally feels like things have settled out enough. And I'm like, I really do need to just do it.
Yeah. And you're looking at family, right?
No.
No, you're acute?
Yes, adult gerontology.
Good. Yeah.
Acute
Join
I
us.
love kids. I don't want to take care of the kiddos. Yeah.
I remember advanced physical assessment, and there was like this whole section on like, ages and stages, and which we still had to do in acute track, but going through all the awful things that can happen to kids, and like I remember the what is it? There's like a sign for the when kids get I'm blanking on this. When kids get, it's like the astrocytoma in the in the eyes, and they lose the red light reflex or something. That, when you shine it in, there's no reflection back because of the invasion of this malignancy. And I remember just the horror. And I think around that time, it was just before Sophia was here. And every now and then I just pull my phone out and like hit her with the light real quick and be like, okay, good. Okay. This exceedingly rare thing is clearly not affecting you.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're genetically superior. You're welcome.
Yes. I worry about that a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to be learning even more things that could make me more concerned about losing the people around me. But just got to work through it.
Yeah, it's okay. I do think I often think about, just by comparison, one of, like, when we were going through our NICU stuff, one of the people I think we came across basically said, like, yes, because I'll say, like, I know this, but I don't do this. Like, I know medicine, but I don't know this kind of medicine. And they would say, like, well, you know enough to be dangerous, like to trick yourself out. But I would argue too, while you can absolutely overdo it, that knowledge can be very empowering in that way. But it requires some degree of belief, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is really dicey territory, so I'm going to tiptoe through it. But everything that you do in life requires faith.
Yeah.
Including your faith, right?
Mm-hmm. Including that, yes.
But you drive a car. You believe that the tires aren't going to explode. You believe that you're not going to get, front-ended by a drunk driver. I wear my seatbelt because I believe it will save me. I put my kids in the appropriate car seats because I believe that it will save them. I go for a walk after I eat because I believe it will improve my insulin sensitivity, because that's what the data tells you right now. But it's one thing to go and learn all this stuff, but it's another thing to believe it, believe that it goes. It's like, especially when you start training, there's a component of wanting to hyperfixate on an illness or a person with an illness and thinking about all the negative variations of it that can happen, and like the worst case scenario, and looking for something terribly obscure. And you have to learn how to like limit yourself and be like, no, you've studied this thoroughly. You understand how it works. You keep a healthy lookout for things that could be bad, but you are also very welcome to go home and not think about it.
I like that.
Because some people will be like, well, do you even care? And like, no, dude, I care a lot. But I care so much that I dedicated so much time to this one thing so that I could put it down and say that I'm done with this for now until, because like, how many times have you been asked, are you going to do something? And it's like, I am doing something.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that simple. And the thing is, if you do take it home, you're just going to burn out anyways, which is what we see all the time. So it's healthier, which is also something I learned from COVID, which is self-care and prioritizing myself sometimes. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit more, because I think that I think external to COVID, self-care, I think often gets pushed as like a scapegoat by people. I won't say specifically who you and I both know, but it's real, just not maybe in that way. So what, in life, like let's say external to COVID, like what are your self-care mechanisms?
Yeah, like anything, self-care can be abused just like anything else. But for me, self-care does look like prioritizing. Usually we try to have like a night a week, because we've been very busy, but a night a week where I have dinner with my husband. I sit down, we watch a show. Sometimes it is coming home from work and realizing I had a rough day and I need to turn off my brain. So I'm going to rewatch probably Stranger Things or The Office or whatever comfort show that I'm into that day. For a while, I thought it was like getting massages every month and all of these things, but I really kind of learned it's just taking a moment to let myself rest, because I'm not good at that. I get super fixated on things or feel like I need to be super productive, but sometimes you do just need to rest if you're going to do well at all these other things. So it looks like spending time with my friends, like taking time to take a break. Even self-care for me, because we went through COVID and all these things, like trying to repair my relationship with the community. We started doing pet therapy of the Ozarks. So me and Jaeger he's going to be a little pet therapist. And so we get to actually go relate to the community in a different way, which has been super healing for me in a lot of ways, I feel like, because you get to see the other side of society that's not just those coming in to the ICU every couple of weeks and things like that, you know? So
Yeah.
I think self-care can be a different thing for a lot of different people, but ultimately it's just taking at least a little bit of time to prioritize taking care of yourself.
Yeah. I would say, and I'd be curious what your take is on it. I think it's one thing to get caught up in caring about something, right? So whether it's homelessness or poverty or whatever. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed by those things, especially in our information age and watching the news and stuff. I think because I think, with the overload, it can really push you towards apathy, But I would say even very small acts of kindness can completely shift your perspective. Like getting out and working with people, or like something I've done, which a lot of people would be like, don't do that. But I try to always keep cash in my wallet now, so that if I see somebody, I can give them a couple of dollars. Cause for me, like coming to the conclusion of, cause I remember living in Seattle and the horrific levels of homelessness and stuff, and getting so burned out on that, and just angry at homeless people, And I'm not saying there aren't crummy people who do it and do it just to do it, but by and large, that's none of my business. It's none of my business. And as I remember, I'm not going to give them any money, whatever. And now I'm like, who cares? If that was me, I'd probably be worse.
It's a couple bucks. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just going to spend it on drugs. Maybe not. I don't know. That's not up to me. That's up to them. But whatever they choose to do is what they choose to do, but I can still choose to help them.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a big part of self-care too, is thinking of people that it's not yourself. That's when it gets to abuse of it, or overindulging is when it becomes completely about yourself. But like you said, stepping out, volunteering, or just doing what you can to be kind to a person that day, or things like that can be self-care too, because they uplift you as much as they do that person.
Yeah. Especially in this Lenten season.
Yes.
Of pinciatory, what's that word? They use that very strong word.
I don't
Something
know.
about penitence.
I don't know a ton. I know some about
do you all do
Catholicism.
Lent?
No, we haven't, but I've been considering doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is our first year practicing Lent, and because I was very unfamiliar with it, and I know that there's a lot of Protestant faith that does it. I've seen people do it. Yes. I've just never, like Ash Wednesday, I've never, I was joking. We went to Mass last night and they put the ashes on my head. And I was like, why does mine smell like cigarettes? But I read something about Lent, which I really loved. And it was that, because they talk about the principles behind Lent and what's really going on, because part of it's about penitence, another part of it's about preparation. But one of the things I read basically said, whatever you subtract from yourself, you should try to add to other people. Not that you're if you take your gambling addiction away, you give them, but just there should be a give and take. You can remove things from yourself, but you can give to the world at the same time, and do good things in that way. So I guess you do it.
I love that. Yeah. Because obviously I'm trying to get to that point anyways with pet therapy and things like that. It's just to give back.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty jealous.
Are you?
That sounds fun. Yeah.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah. We did Wonders of Wildlife, and all these little kids come running to my dog asking to pet him, and he's having the best day of his life. And so you get a lot of joy out of it. Just even the passive joy I get from seeing people at Lowe's or whatever look at my dog. It's great.
I really wish you would teach him to walk on his hind legs.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, don't make him mad, because he'll transform into a titan.
I'll pin his little fur up so he's the smiling titan. It'd be terrifying.
We've talked a lot about Attack on Titan.
We have, yes.
This week, and we're in we've reached a point in the story, because I've been complaining quite a bit up to this point. I'm like, will somebody tell me something about what's going on here? And now we're at the part of the story where they're info dumping every episode, and you're like, what's spoiler alert? It's Aaron ate his dad. Like, what?
Yeah, so you
Like,
saw that. So Erin had mentioned that the other day, and she's like, "How did Erin become a Titan?" And I'm like,
well, I know we've been pondering that the whole time because, like, I'm like, okay, either there's a mechanic here that we haven't been explained to yet, but they've been very specific. Like, you didn't get this without, doing this thing. So, like, so then when they're like, it's so convenient too. Actually, we just erased your memory and you hate your dad.
Yep. Yes, there's a way that you get that. Yes. Yeah, I didn't want to spoil it, but he definitely ate his dad.
Yeah, your dad shot you up, turned you into a Titan, and let him eat you after he ate somebody else, which is probably where Aaron's getting all these crazy powers from. And
yes, the different Titans.
Yeah. So we're right at the point where all that's going to get uncorked. And now I'm like, dang it, I want to watch Attack on Titan.
Good. See, I'm glad you're finally getting there. That's the thing. And at the beginning of it, like, I'll be honest, when we first watched it, granted, I was kind of tired in that season. It was COVID, but I fell asleep a couple of times. My husband was watching it, whatever. And I told you, I didn't like all the screaming at the beginning. But
my God, so much screaming.
I was like, dude, you just need to chill. Like, whatever you need to do to be able to talk in a normal voice, you need to do it.
Between him yelling and then transforming into a Titan and just going, "Mah!" like over and over again. Like, brother, you got to cut that out. You got to cut that out right now.
Yes, but then it does get really good. That's why I told you there'll be a lot of world building, a lot of different things that come up.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen some clips from like season way down the road and been like, wow, the world changes quite a bit, you know? So what's your favorite anime? Very important podcasting topic.
I know. My husband would be disappointed. Probably Demon Slayer. His favorite is Attack on Titan.
Good answer.
I love character development. I love growth. I love that good and evil. Obviously, I love Harry Potter. Like Demon Slayer, there's good, there's evil. There's some blurred lines,
Demon Slayer's peak, though.
It's just, you can't beat it. It's so good. Like, it has brought out so many emotions that I don't even feel for real people, but I feel it for them. Like, I ugly cry at parts of that show. So, yeah, it's so good.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, once you're habituated to the environment of healthcare, not that things don't affect you, but broadly speaking, a lot of stuff doesn't. That would bother the average person just because you don't, either you've not been exposed to it, you've not rationalized it, like, into those things. You've not, because, some of the consequences of medicine are just objectification. You're just like, yeah, that's just what it is.
That's what happens.
A plus B equals C. You get that. Is bummer. That sounds so insincere. Yeah, bummer. Sorry, I need to watch Demon Slayer and cry over a cartoon because I will, dude. I was like in my office at work watching some part at the end of season 3 where some very important character looks like they're about to die, and I'm like, shut the door, shut the door.
Yeah, that's the scene that got me too. My husband's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was the snot bubbles, like typical animated cry, like ugly cry was what was happening to me. Yeah. But it's so good.
It's been really fun. I grew up watching anime and like just kind of fell out of it. Like, and I'd revisit certain shows every now and then. And my wife would be like, I just hate this. Like, I can't get into it. This sucks. And then I think I was like watching Demon Slayer and I was like, dude, you have to watch Demon Slayer. You have to. I swear to God, you'll like it. Like, you read nonstop crazy fiction books. This is the same thing, but you can watch it, And she got sucked right into it. And now she's like with Attack on Titan and different stuff. She's definitely, because you know this very well. There's definitely like a crossover between like culture and art.
Yes.
When it comes to anime, and there's different styles and stuff like that, and things that things you might gravitate towards or things you might not gravitate towards. So when something new enters her sphere, she's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Get the lay of the land first." Like, it's very nuanced. So we always try to. I've been increasingly more conscious about across the span trying to get feedback about. For newer nurses, yes. Like, what insights you can offer or any advice that you would give. So for you, what would you say to, graduate nurses going into emergency or ICU, just looking to get started, very anxious, riddled with fear, what advice would you give?
I remember those days. I remember being in
I still have
class
those
and
days.
being like, I'm just a kid. Why are they trusting me with these things?
Yeah.
This makes no sense. So
You're insane. You've never seen me on my off time. This is real.
I was like, guys,
real.
I still watch cartoons essentially and play video games. So, but I do think a big thing, if you want to be successful in those areas, and something that I learned, and I was very fortunate because I had wonderful preceptors that encouraged this. You really just have to dig in, and that might mean studying on your off time. And it might mean, asking your preceptor if they're not forthright. I had one intern, I loved her because we would see something, she'd be like, tell me about this. And then we would talk through pathophysiology and things like that. But I think really making those efforts to learn what you're doing, because realistically, we all know in nursing school, you learn maybe 5% of what you need to know, especially if you go into a specialized area. So taking that extra time and that effort to ask questions, not feel like you can't ask questions without looking stupid. I still ask questions constantly just because I like to bounce things off of each other. But that would probably be my biggest thing, is having the humility to seek out what you're wanting to do. Like, what we do with our career, we can be passive, and we probably could be a decent nurse. Like, we probably wouldn't kill people. But if you really put forth that effort, you can be a phenomenal nurse, and you can really encourage your patients, then your family members, by being intelligent when you talk to them and stuff. It makes a big difference. The comfort that you bring them, providers, relationships are better, I feel like. So,
Whack.
Except with you. It's because I made you watch Attack on Titan. I know it. I'm going to watch Chainsaw Man and then be like, Ron, you're the worst. Okay.
I like the floor for being a good nurse is not killing somebody.
Yes. I mean, it's a step up.
It's a
Some
start.
of them don't.
It's
I've
a
had,
start.
like, I try not to be this way, but there has been like a couple of students or whatever who do not engage. I remember I had a student once, we were coding this guy, and I was like, hey, jump in and do compressions. She's like, oh, I've done them before, and sat on her phone at her desk. Like, don't hire those people. They think they know it all.
Yeah.
They're going to kill somebody. So I think having that humility to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I still have days like that, especially in critical care, in emergency medicine. Things are changing all of the time, and we have to be willing to step up and like learn those things, even if it's in our off time, or asking questions that might make us look stupid, or different things like that. So a big part of being a nurse, I think, is humility, and not getting overly confident.
Yeah. Overconfidence kills.
Yes.
Arrogance kills.
Arrogance.
Confidence is good.
Yes.
It can be dangerous sometimes, but it's usually dangerous when it becomes arrogance.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a better word for it.
What advice would you give to experienced nurses who want to leave the ICU but feel like it's too closely associated with their professional identity?
Yeah, I felt a lot of that when I left, but I do think it's important. Like, there are nurses who are going to spend their entire career in one area, and that's great. You're going to be a master of that career, and that's awesome. I'm all for that. I think positively. They're phenomenal. Yeah, but that's a good point. Not always, but sometimes. But there is a benefit, both personally and professionally, to sometimes trying something else. So I went to EP lab. I made great relationships with some other doctors, but I learned a ton in doing that. And I am able to bring that back and talk to my patients in the ICU about it. Like, especially if they're going for cardiac procedures or anything like that, I can provide the education and things like that. So there's benefits to both. And that's the positive of being a nurse, is you have the options to try something new. And I think sometimes we feel like it's a failure to leave ICU, because ICU nurses tend, if you love ICU and you know it's for you, you love it and you keep coming back, like I do. But it's okay to take a break sometimes too. And I tried to frame it more of like, I'm going to learn something else that when I come back, I will be able to contribute more to my unit, to my patients, to their families, as far as education, just a general knowledge. Like, I know arrhythmias that I never knew existed before by hanging out with particular doctor.
I'm pretty jealous, honestly.
So yeah, it's hard, but even as a seasoned nurse, it is hard to leave an area, especially when you're so connected with the people. and things like that. But you're only going to grow. So I think that there's benefits to both, like being that nurse that stays or being that nurse that's okay with trying something new.
Yeah. There is nothing more disconcerting than looking at an EKG and then handing it to somebody else, and then they go, "Ooh," and you go, "What?"
Yes.
Then you have to lean over and go, "Oh yeah, ooh."
Yeah, you're right. That's
ew.
gross.
Is that a Barency? Ooh, I don't know what that is. I didn't see tombstones. It looked fine.
I know, exactly. And that was kind of where I was at before I went. When I applied for EP, I was like, I've taken care of pacemakers, like post-pacemaker patients and temp pacers. I was like, I got this. And then I walked in on day one and I was like, I was overly confident on my skill level for these things because there's all these different arrhythmias. There's other machines that they use. There's the ablations, and it's a weird area too, because like we were trying to throw patients into VT and things that I avoided my entire career. Yeah. I was now like, all right, let's put him in it. And I would just sit and watch him. Or sometimes I'd be like, do you want me to shock him? His pressure's like 30 systolic. And the doctor would be like, yeah, go ahead and shock him out of it now. Like it just became something that was so like, just calm, not worried about it. So there's ways I think that I grew as a nurse by being willing to take the step to make a change.
I remember in Seattle, we were, our hospital is also a very high epilepsy center. And every now and then we'd get patients in the ICU and they'd have grids placed on like the surface of their brain. And we would watch them in the ICU because they were trying to map the seizures and see if they could, nail down exactly where it was coming from. And we had, obviously they try and elicit a seizure, and often it's not that difficult. Like either a person knows what their trigger is or they just use the standard cocktail of things that make them do it. But I remember we had a young patient with severe epilepsy, like really bad, but very much like was very in tune with it, as most people with severe chronic illnesses are. We tried for a week straight to get this person to have a seizure, and nothing worked. Nothing ever worked. And I don't even remember what it was, just randomly without provocation, like literally on the 7th day, they had a seizure. And I was like, okay, what was all this for then?
Right. Thanks. Now you do it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh boy. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you
problem.
For being an awesome friend.
Yes.
Thank you
too.
For sticking with us through COVID.
Yes. I love you and your family.
And thank you for coming on and sharing. A lot of people, the amount of people I talk to about coming on and relaying experiences that are like, oh no, oh Lord, no. Yeah. But, and I try and reassure everybody through this process, don't underestimate how beneficial your perspectives can be. And I often underestimate it as somebody has been putting out these things for 2 years now, but we still get messages or text messages or comments of like, hey, I listened to this thing, that perspective helped me so much. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come and give those freely.
Yes. Hopefully it gave something of use.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say before we close out?
I don't think so.
Don't talk shit on Attack on Titan.
You can talk shit. It's okay. I get it a little bit sometimes.
What's that video?
It's a good show. It's a good show. You don't even know.
It is a good show. You just need to get 35 episodes into it.
Exactly.
And then it really opens up.
It's a slow build, and then it just hammers you.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.